Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Database Cloud Services Office Hours. This is a office hours where we can talk about anything related to our database cloud services. I'm really excited today my name's Tammy Bednar, by the way. I'm a Senior Director of Product Management, and I focus on our database cloud service here in the database development organization. And I'm really excited coming off of Oracle World just last week. I think we're all still recovering a little bit. If you joined us, thank you for joining us at Oracle World. If not, we're going to talk to you today about one of the new announcements that was made at Oracle World last week about Oracle's free service. And with us today is David Peake. Hey, David, how are you today?
I'm great, Tammy.
and I had the great opportunity to spend a lot of time with David last week. He helped a lot with our Oracle World activities, and he's going to talk about how to use or start using. So you have Oracle's free service. So now what do you do? And so David's going to talk to us today about how easy you can use Application Express with our new free service to create applications. So why don't we get started? So first of all, let's talk about Oracle's Cloud new free tier and always free Oracle Autonomous Database. What does this mean exactly? So there is an always free service that you can use for an unlimited time. And it's very easy to sign up, and it's a unified experience as well with our free service. And I'll tell you what that means in just a second. So there are certain services that are always free. So as long as you continue to use them, they're always available for you. They have great resources to start developing applications, to kind of get your hands a little dirty, looking at the Oracle Cloud, trying things out. And then on top of that, you also get 300 free credits for 30 days, which allows you to use some of the other services that are not included with the always free. So we're really excited to offer this to you. Now, what's included with the always free service? Well, first of all, you're going to get 2 autonomous databases. And as you know, you have an option to deploy either autonomous transaction processing, or ATP, and that provides OLTP or mixed workloads, even analytics types of capabilities, or an autonomous data warehouse. If you're really interested in analytics piece of it, then you can also provision that, or 1 of each, or 2 of each, or whatever you're looking to test out or build an application with. Now, each of those databases will give you 20 gigabytes of storage. In addition to that, of course, you need more than just the database to create an application. You may need some compute. So you also get 2 VMs, and that will give you 1 gigabyte of memory each. Storage, for object storage, you get 1 gigabyte of block, 10 gigabytes of object storage, and 10 gigabytes of archiving as well. And then from a networking perspective, you get 10 megabits of a load balancer, 10 terabytes of outbound data transfer as well. And to monitor all that, you get 500 million metrics ingestion, 1 billion metrics retrieval, 1 million notifications, and 1,000 emails. That's a lot of resources to get started on this free service, we hope. Would love your feedback. So if you have any feedback, please feel free to email myself or David on this. So anybody that signs up for the free tier account signups, paid accounts, you automatically get those. If you have an Oracle Cloud account, you get that as well. If you get a free tier account, you can always upgrade to a paid account also as well on the Oracle Cloud. You don't have to move your data or anything. It's just you move it, you let us know you want a paid account, and we'll just move all the work that you've done on the free tier, and it'll be upgraded to a paid account. You will need a universal credit plan and also a commercial OCI data region. So when you sign up for the free account, one thing I want to caution you on is that you do have to identify which region you would like to sign up or have all your resources to use them in. So once you assign a data region with your free tier account, unfortunately, you can't change that. So just be aware that when you sign up for it, if you haven't, you will have to identify which region you want to use those resources in. So you start by creating an always free ATP or ADW database instance, and David's going to demonstrate that in just a second. You can use SQL Developer Web to interact with the database SQL, Application Express, download Client Wallet, use it, connect to the database from SQL Plus or SQL command line. So the nice thing about this free service is that you don't even have to download any client tools. I think that's the best thing I've seen within the cloud, that you can use it without having any kind of additional client tools. Now, when we said at the beginning a couple slides ago that it's unified, when you create an autonomous database in the cloud, we actually have a new option on the provisioning screen. And as you can see, you can say that this was one of the always free configurations. Why would you want to do that? Well, if you already have a paid account and you're using the free trial, this identifies which of the database services that you want to apply to your free account. So it doesn't go against your universal credits or your rate card that you're currently using. So as you can see, we've definitely unified and integrated the free account along with the autonomous database. Where can you find more information? So we have a new web page and a video. It's easy to remember, oracle.com/cloud/free. So if you go there, you'll find a lot more information. We also have a great blog post announcement from Todd Botker. If you go to blogs.oracle.com/oracle-database, that is all the technical database blogging information of where you can find that. And you'll see right now that that is the top blog over in the Oracle-database blogging area. There's also some documentation about the always free autonomous database. docs.oracle.com/cloud/ATP/UG/index.html. That one's not so quite easy to remember, but we do have some end user documentation as well. All right. So that is all about the free tier. And so now I'd like to turn it over to David, and he's going to talk about how to use the free tier and to create Application Express. Okay, David, over to you.
Thanks, Tammy. So let me go ahead and share my desktop. So I've just gone to oracle.com, and the first thing you'll see up the top here is here's a link to go and sign up for the free tier. And so you just go through here, go through and fill out all the details and do whatever, put in your email address, etc. As Tammy was saying, make sure you select your territory well, because of the fact with the free service, the one you select is the one you will keep. So anyway, let me just back up a page, leave that. And if you'll see this little user icon, this is how you actually get into your cloud service. So I'm just going to click on there and then sign into the cloud. So I need to give it my account name. And then I'm actually going to be dropped into my Oracle Cloud Infrastructure dashboard, where I can do all sorts of wonderful things. And one of the things you'll notice here is it'll show you how much money I've got left on my trial, how many days, etc. You'll see that I'm running this out of US East, out of Ashburn, and so I need to keep it in that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and start by creating a database. So I need to give this one a name, and I'm going to call this one Tammy, because I need to give it a unique name. And I want transaction processing rather than data warehouse. I want serverless. And down here, you will see this switch. Now, if I leave it as off, then this will start utilizing my cloud credits. But instead, I want an always free. And you'll see that it actually changes the storage and the CPU count, and in fact, doesn't let me select those. And then all I need to do is put in my password. And then that, my friends, is as easy as that. Now, you'll notice that it's already defaulted to license included because of the fact it's a free tier. And now it's actually going to go through and start provisioning. And this will take anything from probably a minute or so. While we're waiting for that, you can go and do various things like check out your user settings. You'll see that you've let's just go into there, and this is where you can actually go and do things like creating auth tokens and things like that, and public keys for when you're looking to communicate to your specific cloud service. But I'm just going to go back over here. This hamburger menu is what I use a lot to go navigate around, and I selected autonomous transaction processing, so it's still provisioning. Hopefully it shouldn't be too much longer. You'll see I've already got one always free, and I'm allowed two, and so this is a limit. I won't be able to create a third one, but if I wanted to, I can easily just remove one of these as well when I'm finished playing with it, just by terminating it over here. Come on now. Normally this doesn't take too long at all. Which, of course, because I said that, it's going to take extra time today. So, I mean, one of the best things about Autonomous and the free service is you're getting all the best hardware and, being Exadata running rack, all of our autonomous capabilities, and it's an always free service. So you're getting the best of both worlds, and it's very easy to go from the always free service and upgrade it once you exceed the limits of the service. I see a couple of questions in here, Tammy, if you want to answer those while we're waiting.
On it, thank you.
And so, I mean, it's a really good way to actually go and start playing with the cloud and getting comfortable with it. There are a few minor differences between developing on-premise and developing in the cloud that you need to get used to. And now my ATP is available, so I'm just going to click here on Service Console, and if I go down to development here, then you'll see that I've got Oracle Apex. So I'm just going to click on that. And I should have killed my VPN before I did this, but oops. Just slowing myself down a little. So now it's after my OCI password, which hopefully I can type correctly. Apparently not. That's better. And so now what it wants me to do is to actually create a workspace. And a workspace is a logical area where you define your applications. And so in here, I'm just going to give it a name. So again, I'm just going to call it Tammy, give it a password. I'll leave that as Tammy and create that workspace. And then I'm just going to go straight into this particular workspace. So within a few minutes of signing up, I've been able to get a fully featured development environment up and running. Now, if I have a look in here, I've currently got nothing in here. So, I've got a couple of options. If I want to go and drop in some tables, if we go into SQL Workshop here, and then under Utilities, you'll see this sample data sets. And I'm just going to install the project data. The reason is I want to go and play with a few tables, existing tables. So I don't want to create an application at this point. I'm just going to jump out. Another thing I might want to do is if I go into Application Builder, I might want to go and create an application. So a very common use case is that I need to create an application based on a spreadsheet. So I'm just going to drag a spreadsheet over and drop it in, and it's discovering all of the columns, etc., for that spreadsheet. And so I'm just going to call this one tasks. Okay, and I'm going to load this data. And so rather than, sending out a spreadsheet to 20 people, I could easily use this service, drop the spreadsheet in, create an application, just like I'm doing now. It's a very simple process, takes no time at all. And I'll call this one tasks. And then I can check all these features and create the application. Okay, and then I can run this application. Now, all I need to do is give it my username password, which for me is Tammy. And then I have this application where I have a dashboard where it's identified some attributes that, for example, the status, the number of tasks per project, and the number of tasks per assigned person. And then I've also got this interactive report with a form that I can actually start maintaining the data. So all you'd need to do is send out this URL. And if that URL is a bit unwieldy, just create a bit.ly link for it. And the only other thing you'd need to do is actually go in and create some users to be able to access the system. Now, again, this is fully browser based. You don't need any client software or anything else. And so this is a great way, rather than sending out spreadsheets, to quickly create applications using your new free service and then having other people, signing in and utilizing this service. So let's say, for sake of argument, that you've got some new business requirements, and as a consequence, you want to build some new tables. So one of the easiest ways to do that is to go in under Apex and under SQL Workshop and into SQL scripts, I should say, and then go to Quick SQL. So in here, we can start typing in names. So for example, we might have departments, and departments have a name, they have a location. Well, in fact, let's do this differently. Let's do a street address. They have a city, they have a state, they have a phone number, etc. Now, departments also have employees, and employees have a name, they have email, they have a phone, they have a, let's say, a desk. And what you will see is, as I'm typing this in, then it's actually building up the SQL for me, but I don't need to remember how to write a create table script. I don't need to know how to do a foreign key constraint. It's simply based on the number of indents. Because of the fact I indented employees by 2, then it knows that this is a child of the departments table. You'll also notice that it's creating triggers to actually populate the IDs. It's picked up some of these columns and it's making them different sizes. I can also do things, for example, let's say I put in something like salary. You'll see over the side here that it's actually varchar to 4000. Well, I can give it various directives, and there's a number of different types of directives. There's, for example, data types, so I might want a number field. There's also table directives, so I can do things like inserting records. There's also various column directives, so if I wanted uppercase, lowercase, if I want to reference something or have a particular check constraint added to it, then I can just use these various directives. And there's also some samples that we can load in as well. So going back to here, then, for example, I'll just put a num on the end of there. And one of the biggest problems when you first create new tables is you've got no data in them. So when you build an application, it's very hard to see, how the application, to look at the reports and everything else because there's no records. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to insert 5 departments, and I'll insert, say, 20 employees, just so that I can see some of the records coming through. And so I'm just going to generate that SQL. And now if you have a look, you'll see that it's actually inserting some data into these tables for me. So I can simply go and save this script. And so I'm going to call this one departments. And then I'm going to review and run it. Okay. And I've got 32 successful. And then up the top here again, I'm going to create an app from this script. So it's going to be based on these department and employees tables. So I'm just going to call this one departments. And so this is another way to get started from nothing. Now I've, within a couple of minutes, been able to build an application that I can start working with. Oops, if I put in my username properly, I can start working with my end users and seeing if this is close to what they want or if there's something that we need to change. And it's just populated it with some data. It doesn't matter about the quality of the data, it's the fact that there's something in there and it's like, oh, phone number should be numeric, for example. If we go and have a look at the employees, again, we can look at this and go, oh, yep, that's pretty good. But we might need to make some changes. So that's another way to get started with a brand new initiative where I don't have any data structures. If I actually go back into the SQL workshop here, back into SQL scripts and back into quick SQL, for example, I can just say that I want that one to be number. I can add various settings in here as well. For example, I might want a prefix on these. But what I really want to do is I want to come down here and include drops because of the fact I want to make sure I drop the ones that are there. I also want audit columns added and row version number. And I'm going to change this to 12C identity data types. And you'll see that it's now added these audit columns for me and a row version column. And it's upgraded the triggers to populate those columns for me. So let me just run this again. Okay. Now instead of when I run this, there'll be more than 32. There's actually 34 statements because I've also got the drops in there. And you'll see that it dropped the 2 tables and then recreated them. And again, I'm just going to create another application on top of this. So I'll call this one again, departments. And here's my new application, which if I log in, then now we'll see that the phone number is actually a numeric field. If I actually go and edit one of these, then you'll see here's my audit columns. I'd actually want to make them display only, for example, because of the fact nobody should be updating them. They're maintained by database triggers. But I've gone from a concept or a napkin design to building an application exceedingly quickly. Now, before I actually went and dropped some tables in, so let's just go into the object browser. You'll see I've got the department and employees, which I just created using quick SQL, the tasks, which I created using drag and dropping a spreadsheet in, and then I've got these project tables, and I want to see how they're related. So, through the object browser here, I can do various things like I can add columns, drop columns, I can look at constraints, etc. But I have to go through each one and evaluate all of the constraints and everything else to understand any foreign key relationships, etc. So what I'd prefer to do is actually use SQL Developer Data Modeler. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to go into SQL Developer Web, and first of all, I'm just going to log in as admin. So I put in admin and my OCI password. And when you're in as admin, then you can see the various users in here. So for example, I can go down, I can see all the database objects for Tammy and what have you. But what I want to do is I actually want to log in as Tammy. So if I actually go back over here, just going to sign out, and then I want to sign in. And the way to change that is to actually go in up here into the URL and actually change admin to the name of the schema, which is Tammy, and go in this way. And you'll see I get this 404 not found. And the reason for that is because of the fact I haven't REST enabled that schema. So what I'm going to do is go back into Apex, and I'm going to go back into the SQL Workshop. Now I can also do this through the command line, through SQL Developer Web. I can actually go in and REST enable the schema, but I've already got Apex up and running, and this is by far the easiest way to do it. I'm just going to register my schema. So leave all the defaults in place. And then I'm going to go back here, and I'm just going to refresh this. And you'll see that I can now log in. So my username is going to be Tammy. Oops, not admin Tammy. And then my password is, again, the password I gave that. And so now I'm into SQL Developer specifically for the Tammy, for the schema Tammy. And so you'll see all my database objects here. And, I can't, I can start playing with these. So what I'm going to do is go over to the data modeler here, and I'm just going to select all of my samples. I'm just going to drag them in. And this will take a few minutes, or not even that long, a few seconds. And you'll see that it's built out all the structures for me. So I've got a comments table there. If I go across, I've got some milestones here. Keep going across. I've got a status here, which is associated directly with the project. I can actually click on any of these and see that the status ID is going to the ID of this table. Let's go across. There's my task table. And, I can now start seeing how these are related. Now, if I wanted to actually go and change anything, then I can just right click on here and click on edit. And I can see, for example, all the foreign keys. I can go and add in a new foreign key if I wanted to, and just add in the details of it. But I actually don't want to do that at this stage. I can also go and look at things like the indexes. So I've got all my primary key, unique, my another non-unique index here. So I can see exactly all the details of my table and be able to modify anything I want through here as well. So SQL Developer Web, again, is purely web-based. You don't need any client tools. You can do data modeling. You can do all sorts of, maintaining of all your database objects through that option as well. And so, there's the one little trick is to actually, modify the URL, but that only works once you've REST enabled the schema. So that's just, a little trick there on how to get this up and running. But now, you've got the full ability to do whatever you want to within SQL Developer Web as well for that particular schema that you've got defined. So, again, in here, I can put in any valid SQL and start running that. So, having this new shiny toy called the Autonomous Database is great, but being able to utilize it to start solving business problems is what it's really all about. And learning about it is the best way to learn about it is to have something that you want to do. And then I've shown you a few different ways to get started. Now, if you want to learn more about Apex, then the best way to go is to go to apex.oracle.com, and you'll find a lot of information here. From this page, if you go to Learn and then Tutorials, then you'll find a number of tutorials. The first one here is a spreadsheet lab. So it's similar to the one I just showed you where I uploaded a spreadsheet. Just click on this Run on Autonomous Database. And in fact, I'm just going to do that now. And the first part of it, in fact, takes you through those steps that I was doing when I'd signed up for my service and to get Apex up and running. So you go into the service console, etc., click on Apex, put in the password and so forth. And then once you get past section 1, once you get into section 2 is when you start getting into the real lab of, in this case, loading up a spreadsheet. Going back to this page, we also have a lab here on existing tables where we actually load up some tables and then build an application on top of it. This proof of concept lab is taking you into a lot more depth on utilizing Quick SQL to build out a number of different tables. Then we have some labs here on utilizing REST as the basis for your application rather than local tables. So for example, if you want to utilize an external database as your data source, then providing you can expose RESTful services from that external data source, then you can use those as a basis for your applications with Apex inside of Autonomous. So you can build reports, charts, calendars, forms, etc., based on REST APIs. And then this last one here is a remote table one where we actually get a spreadsheet from the economist, use some APIs to actually load it into a table in the Autonomous database, and then do all sorts of interesting manipulations on the data. It's actually using what's called the Big Mac Index, which is the price of Big Macs around the world. So it's quite an interesting way to take some external data and then get some extra value by using Apex. And then this final lab here is a much bigger lab, and this is designed for if you're ready to really build out applications, then this is taking it to the next level of building out multiple different pages and manipulating menus and all sorts of different capabilities within Apex. So that covers off most of what I wanted to cover today. And I would like to, my key objective today was to show you just how easy it is to get started. So, signing up is very simple. Once you've signed up, you can readily start building out some really nice little business solutions very quickly and easily using Apex. You can go and manipulate and review your database objects either using Apex in the SQL Workshop or using SQL Developer Web. I've shown you how to get into those services now so that you can start really, playing around with it and getting a feel for just how easy development is using the Oracle development tools and the Autonomous database. So with that, I will ask if there's any questions.
So David, there was one from Roxanne. I want to make sure that it got, Roxana, sorry, that got answered. You get access to the admin interface and have access to the underlying databases with this, the application express, correct? Yeah.
Yep. So within Apex, yes. So let me just go back to my Apex environment. If I actually log out of here, so I'm just going to sign out. So if I click, sorry, just one thing while I'm here, if you click on this new to Apex link, that will actually take you to the documentation, including all the restrictions of Apex on Autonomous. But if I go back here and I click on administration services, then I can log in if I can remember my password. Always a trick.
That's your admin account, correct? That you
yes. So this is instance admin. Now this isn't everything that you get on premise. There's a limit. For example, there's because this is a fully managed service, then many of the options, for example, the instance settings have been removed because of the fact that Oracle's responsible for setting those and maintaining those for everybody, every tenant within Autonomous. But as an instance administrator, you can go on, into feature configuration, for example. You can go and manage all your workspaces, create additional workspaces, all those sorts of things, do all the monitoring that you can normally do.
Fantastic. That's great. I'm impressed, David, that we still have more time. that was really
well,
good.
The problem is that Apex is so quick that I ran through my demonstrations very quickly. I mean, one of the things is I didn't really show off some of the key features of Apex, and let me just take a few seconds to do that. So
great.
I'm just going to sign out of here, and then I'm going to go back into my Tammy workspace. And here's my task one. So let me go and play with this one. So one of the things is that one of the big problems that people have is, every user wants to see the report in different ways. And an interactive report really allows the developer to very quickly and easily present the data and then allow end users to go and manipulate it. So for example, I have the cost and budget field. So the first thing I want to do is I want to create a computation. And I'm just going to call this one budget versus cost. On see my column list here. I've got budget minus H for cost. Apply that. And now I can see what the difference between those is. I can see that some of those are negative. So I'm just going to highlight those that are over budget. All right. I'll give it a yellow color. Pick off my budget versus cost. Just say, oops, where that is less than 0, not less than or equal to. And so now it's highlighting those where they're negative. So if I go in and change one of these and say, well, actually, the budget on this thing we've just increased, it's now 1,500, then instantly the data is reflecting that change. I can also do things like I can filter this on a particular project. So bug tracker, instead of bug tracker, let's do client server conversion. If I uncheck this, then it's not utilizing the filter, or I can completely remove it. I can also do things like I want to do a break on the project here. So you'll see I've got Web Express configuration, bug tracker, etc. And when I see it like this, it'd be really nice to have an aggregate. So I'm just going to do an aggregate of budget versus cost. So now I see that there's 1,600, 1,250, etc. So that's great. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to see that on a chart. So I'm going in here. And again, this is all end users can do this, not developers having to do it. So I'm just going to select off the details here. So I've got project, budget versus cost. I want to do a sum, label ascending, and I'll make that horizontal. And so now I've got a chart here. I can see that this project's over budget by 3,500. This one's still got 23,000 in it. And, I can zoom in and out of these charts here. If I want to change the basis of the chart, for example, instead of project, I want to see how individuals are doing at managing their budgets, and I can see that most people are doing very well. So that's great. One of the main reasons that people take data out of applications and take them down to spreadsheets is so that they can do pivots. Well, instead of doing that, you can do a pivot directly inside of Apex. I'm just going to do a pivot on status against project, and I'm going to do some of the cost and some of the budget, and I'll do a sum of the budget versus cost, and I might as well do grand totals for each of those. And so now I can see for each status what how it's stacking up. So I can see for this project that it's not doing so well. and then at the bottom I can see the grand total. So for everything that's closed, I can see that I'm over budget by 2,750. So that's not a good trend. That's something we'd want to look at and try and improve. I can see that I've got a lot pending, for example. It's like that's not a good. That means there's a lot coming up, sort of thing. So I can get a lot of information just by manipulating the data with an interactive report. And when I'm finished playing around with this, I can actually go and save this. So I'm just going to go and save my report. And I'm going to, because I'm a developer, I could actually go and save it as an alternative report, but I'm going to keep it as an end user. And I'm just going to say this is budget review, and I can save it. Now, at this stage, I'm saving this as a private report, so only I could see it. But if I'm showing this to a colleague and they're like, oh, this is a really good report, I want it as well, then providing the developer allows them, they can actually make it a public report so that anybody can see this budget review. So if I go back to the way we were, when people first come in, they'll see the primary report, and then anybody can go in and have a look at this budget review that somebody's set up and shared. And so this is just one of the ways that we take a lot of the burden off developers and allow the end users to really go and massage the data in a way that makes sense to them. And rather than having to come back to the developer and say, oh, I want another version of the report with a different order by, for example. So, let's come in here. I'll go into actions, columns. I don't care about the cost or budget now. I'm really interested in the dates, so I'll move those up. So now I'm going to sort this by start date descending and then by end date. Apply that. And then again, I might want to download this, and I can download it to email or HTML or CSV. Or alternatively, I might want to get a subscription of this, so I just put in my email address. And, a nice title, and I can have that daily, weekly, or monthly emailed to me. Now, I'm not actually going to apply this, otherwise it will start sending me emails. But what I will do is I will go and save this report, and this is my daily review. And this is just for me. So now, you can see that there's a third report in here, and I can go to any one of these. And so that's really, some of the power that they're getting.
There was a question about, thanks Roxana for asking questions. Can you export the workspace?
So if I go back in here, this is the application that I just built. I can export the application right here. Mm-hmm. And that comes out as a SQL file that I can then run into any other Oracle database that's running Apex of this version or higher. And this is running 19.1, as you can see down the bottom here. If I go back into instance administration, so let me just sign back out of here, then I can actually export the workspace as well, but that will not export the applications. There's actually if I go into manage workspaces, you'll see here that I can import and export workspaces. Okay. There's an excellent blog post, which I'm just going to go to the blog post now. So if you just search for Oracle Apex blogs, should be the top one. And then if we go down here, there's one here on how to move your Apex applications to autonomous database. And this gives you step-by-step instructions on exactly how to export your on-premise Apex applications and move them into the cloud. So what we're actually using is there's a packaged application called Application Archive, and we use that to actually put all of the application definitions into Apex dollar tables within your schema, so that when you export the workspace, then, or the schema, I should say, it takes all the application definitions as part of that export, and then you can, stand them back up in your on-premise. Now, you could use a similar way to actually go from, your cloud autonomous service back to on-premise or back to another cloud as well. So, it seems like a lot of steps, but really it's, providing you follow the instructions here, it's really not that hard to be able to, move everything into the autonomous cloud, whether it's the always free service or a regular autonomous service that you've signed up for.
Great. And how about BI Publisher integration?
No, if we actually go back to, where was it? Somewhere in here. Here, if we have a look at the restrictions, so it actually says that they're disabled. That you need to integrate a third-party service.
Okay. And thank you, Swin. Roxana was asking about Apex Office Print, and there was a tweet about it today.
Yes, so Apex Office Print is one of those third-party print servers that you can use.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you very much. Anybody have any other final questions before we sign off today? No? Okay. I really want to thank everybody for joining today. We try to have our database cloud service office hours about once a month. So the next one, I'm looking around October the 11th. If there are any topics that you guys would really like to hear from, please drop me an email at tammy.bednar@oracle.com. We'd love to hear from you on that as well. David, thank you so much again for this fantastic information. I really appreciate it. I think it was a great topic today. And thank you again for everybody joining. Until next time, next month, we'll see you then. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Tammy. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Bye for now.